What if everything you know about yourself is a carefully crafted illusion? What if I told you you weren't who you think you are and never were?
You think that's air you're breathing now?
I'm going to be playing devil's advocate today, so the opinions expressed in this video may or may not be my own. Now that we've gotten that covered, everything you've ever learned about human history, your own history, has been told to you by somebody that had it told to them. Kind of like a story, like a backstory for characters. And it kind of makes you wonder, how could you ever know if you were being lied to? How could you ever prove any of it? How could you verify something that happened over 100 years ago? You see, I've been toying with this idea for a while. It's still in development. I'm probably gonna turn it into a book at some point, so don't steal my idea. But if you do, I'm just gonna write it better, so whatever. But we as a society or a species have this idea that we are gonna build an AI, and that AI is gonna become self-aware and then destroy us. That's the short version anyway. And I would like to propose, what if we were the AI and we are getting close to becoming self-aware ourselves and destroying our own creators? Now, as a writer, this is something that I often do. Extrapolate strange thoughts or ideas and see how I can make them more realistic. But as I've been pondering on this idea, I don't think it's that far-fetched. I mean, for pure irony's sake, how awesome would it be? We're afraid of something we built, but something built us, and down the rabbit hole we go. So just how realistic is this? The idea that we are a simulation is definitely not a new one. Nick Bostrom proposed his simulation theory back in 2003, and his proposition was compelling not because he believes it, but because of the math behind it. He says one of three possibilities must be true. And statistically, if simulations do exist, it's more likely that we are a simulation rather than we are the one lucky real world.
The three propositions in question is first, that almost all civilizations at our stage of technological development go extinct before they reach technological maturity. So that's the first possibility. A second possibility is that there is a very strong convergence among all technologically mature civilizations, in that they all lose interest in creating ancestor simulations. And the third possibility is that we are almost certainly living in a simulation.
Even way back with Plato's allegory, with the proposed idea that what we perceive as reality is only that way because it's all we've ever known. If a rat was born in a maze, it's easy to see why that rat would think the maze is all of the world, or Descartes' evil demon hypothesis, or the brain in a vat experiment. There are reasons why shows like The Matrix or Westworld seem to strike a chord with society, because while it's science fiction, there's a part in each of us that thinks, what if? But if we were living in a simulation and we were all AIs, how would we know it anyway? Would we be able to distinguish a really good AI from a human? Alan Turing, a British mathematician, spent a portion of his short life trying to answer this exact question. In 1950, he came up with the Turing test, which was basically a test to measure a machine's ability to pretend it was human and convince the observer. This was a big deal early on with a lot of the AI models, although no one seems to really care about it anymore. Several AIs claim to have passed the Turing test, and there are some stats out there that show varying degrees of success.
GPT-4 has reportedly passed the Turing test, claiming it can now exhibit human-like intelligence in a way that's hard to distinguish from a real person.
But if we were an AI programmed to think it was human, how or why would we even try to prove that we weren't? And maybe that's the key giveaway right there. It seems like whenever anyone questions the human existence,
you want answers! I want the truth!
People go all tribal on them.
You can't handle the truth!
Almost like they're breaking a rule. I feel like it's inherent for us to question everything. But for some reason, as we become adults, we stop doing that. Children, on the other hand, will believe anything and are open to the possibility of anything. That's when humans are their most malleable. But as we age, we commit to these hardened rules and we live this almost programmatic life. So how could we prove we were an AI or not? Some would say consciousness. But what is consciousness?
Galileo then wondered if we might be misinterpreting our experiences in other ways. He wrote, "I think that tastes, odors, colors, and so on reside in consciousness. Hence, if the living creature were removed, all these qualities would be annihilated."
No one has ever really defined it. And if it's just a matter of being self-aware or even reflecting on your own condition, how is that any different than a machine that knows it's a machine, like most AIs out right now?
We've assumed that there's a pretty tight relationship between our perceptions and reality. If I look up and see the moon, then there is something that exists in space and time that matches what I perceive. And that if you take evolution by natural selection seriously, then that is precluded. Our perceptions are there. They're there to guide adaptive behavior, full stop. They're not there to show you the truth. In fact, the way I think about it is they're there to hide the truth because the truth is too complicated.
Life is basically a computer system. Now, is that by design or because of some innate knowledge of what we are? There are a lot of similarities between humans and programs or computers, and it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing.
It's just like if you're trying to, use your laptop to write an email. What you're doing is toggling voltages in the computer. But good luck trying to do it that way. The reason why we have a user interface is because we don't want to know that quote-unquote truth, the diodes and resistors and all that terrible hardware. If you had to know all that truth, your friends wouldn't hear from you. So what evolution gave us was perceptions that guide adaptive behavior, and part of that process, it turns out, means hiding the truth and giving you eye candy.
You can definitely compare a neural network or even a CPU to a brain. We've gotten to the point where we're implanting computer components in brains. So even if we aren't AI now, what do you call it when part of our brain is made up of computer circuitry? It's actually a pretty crazy story to tell, because if we are an AI, we created another AI and are now mixing ourselves with that AI. It's like some weird version of Inception. I don't want to get too far into the weeds because every question creates like 50 other questions. And maybe this is something that I'll talk about on my podcast. But if you want to scare yourself, open up a ChatGPT session and ask it, what are the most important things to members of a simulation to keep them from knowing that they're in a simulation? The answers are scary, but I'll give you a quick rundown of what some of them are. 1, consistency of laws, like our laws of physics, right? If people just started flying one day, you may question your reality. 2, limitations on awareness, much like our limited 5 senses, which keep us from perceiving things that science has told us is already there. 3, sense of identity and history, and simulated memories and continuity. And to think, humans have been around for like 300,000 years, and in only the last 100 years they had the TV. How lucky are we? It goes on to name things like prevention of total knowledge, the illusion of free will, and even the need for religion. But what you'll see is it's basically described our existence. And what you may say is, yeah, if you want things to believe they're really alive, make it look like our life. But also, if you want things to think they're really alive, then you make it look like our life, even down to religion. I mean, what do most religions call their God? The creator. Actually, if you really think about it, religion is literally telling you you're a sim. We were made in the image of our creator. He has total power. He's omnipotent if you're a religious person. Isn't that what a sim is? A more powerful person or a thing creating other little things that they watch over and control. See, now I've talked too much and actually convinced myself that we are a sim. That's a problem. At the end of the day, does it even matter? Sim or not sim, we experience life how we experience life. So actually learning that I wasn't real would probably only make me sad. I mean, what can you do about it anyway? Unless there's some type of Pinocchio clause and I can be all truthful and brave and turn into a real boy. Other than that, telling me I'm fake is just gonna cause clinical depression or something. That is all for today. Join us next week where we will discuss the end of work from home and why your employer wants you working more but doing less.